He is the Director of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau of the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines, or DENR. He is a mining engineer by profession, having obtained his Bachelor's of Science degree in Mining Engineering from Adamson University in Manila, Philippines in 1978. Right after he graduated, he joined the Bureau of Mines and Geosciences, BMG. That's what the name of the MGB was before. He came in as a casual mining engineer. Subsequently, he rose the ranks, taking the position of Engineer 3 in 1988, Engineer 4 in 1998, Director 2 or Regional Director in 2002, and Acting Director in 2010. From 1986 to 1988, our speaker served as President of the Bureau's Employee Association at a time that was filled with struggles and challenges. He takes particular pride in having helped this association become what is now one of the oldest and largest and most active employee associations within the DNR. From 1995 to 1997, he was officer in charge of the planning and management staff of the then Bureau of Mines and Geosciences. From 1997 to 2010, he was officer in charge of the Mining Tenements Management Division of the MGB. In 2010, he became assistant director, and in September of that year, was appointed acting director of the MGB, a position that he continues to hold up to this date. As an engineer of the Bureau, our guest speaker has specialized in mine feasibility evaluation, mining policy study and development, and enforcement. Since 1992, our speaker has been a member of the faculty of the Department of Mining, Geology, and Ceramics Engineering at Adamson University, his alma mater. He teaches economics of mining and mining laws, among other subjects. Ladies and gentlemen, to speak on the topic, the Philippine mining industry, status and policy direction, please put your hands together and join me give a warm welcome to my friend, the Director of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, Mr. Leo Jasareno.
Colleagues in the Philippine minerals industry, the organizers of this very relevant forum, distinguished guests, friends, students, may mga estudyante ako doon. Ito kayo. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. The Mines and Geosciences Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources is thankful of this opportunity to report to you the status of and policy direction for the Philippine minerals industry. It is public knowledge that government is about to issue the mining policy of the administration. It is obvious then that this presentation would not be about the forthcoming mining policy. When the organizers asked me sometime in early May to present the mining policy, I readily accepted it, thinking that by mid-June of this year, such mining policy would have been issued. This did not happen, of course. So the closest that I can come is to present the focus areas and possibilities from where the mining policy is likely to emanate. It is best, however, that we start with refreshing where we are now. There is now a total of 776 exploration permits, mineral production sharing agreements, financial or technical assistance agreements, industrial sand and gravel permits, mineral processing permits, and mining lease contracts. This is our universe in terms of mining tenements of the entire country. These cover a total area of 1.04 hectares, 1.04 million hectares, or about 3.5% of the country's total land area. Most of these mining tenements are in exploration stage. Please note also that these do not include the mining permits issued by the provincial governors and city mayors, which number more than that mining tenements issued by the national government. These do not also include the joint operating agreements being issued by the Philippine Mining Development Corporation, a corporate arm of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. As a consequence of the use it or lose it policy or cleansing implemented by the DNR starting in 2010, the pending mining applications in the entire country now number 1,384 as of May 2012. This is down from about 2,800 mining applications prior to the cleansing process. Of the 1,384, however, 519 have pending motions for reconsiderations and appeals that are now being evaluated by the MGB after these applications were denied as a result of the use it or lose it policy. On the other hand, out of the 776 mining contracts and permits, there are only 33 operating metallic mines comprised of 3 copper mines with gold and silver, 1 copper mine with gold, silver, and zinc, 6 gold mines with silver, 3 chromite mines, 1 magnetite mine, and 19 nickel mines. The 32nd and 33rd mines were those of Sino-Steel HY and Greenstone in Dinagat Islands and Surigao del Norte respectively, which first shipment took place during the last quarter of this year. This is in addition to 1 nickel processing plant, that of Taganito, 1 copper processing plant, that's Pasar, and thousands of sand and gravel and other non-metallic operations. Plus 55 operating non-metallic mines, including cement quarries. There are at least 7 projects in the development or advanced exploration stage. The Far Southeast Copper Gold Project of Lipanto and Goldfield in Bangkayan, Benguet. The Buyungan Bayogo Project of Philex in Surigao del Norte, and the Didipio Copper Project of Oceana Gold in Nueva Vizcaya and Quirino. We also have the Runruno Copper Project of FCF in Nueva Vizcaya, the King Copper Project of Nadicor in Compostela Valley, of course, the Tampakan Copper Project of Sagittarius Extrata in South Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, and Davao del Sur, the Sumitomo HPAL Project of Taganito in Surigao del Norte. Other noteworthy projects include the Ginawang Copper Project of Crescent in Mangkayan, that's near Lipanto, the Strong-Built Magnetite Sand Project in Leyte, and the Santa Cruz Nickel Project of Filipinas Mining in Santa Cruz, Zambales. We also have the Sibuta Gold Copper Project of Philex in Zamboanga del Norte, the Isulan Mining Project of GRCO, a partly Korean mine in Sultan Kudarat, the Borobo Placer Gold Project of Figold in Surigao del Sur, and the Tibuli Gold Project of Tribal Mining in Tibuli, South Cotabato. The Philippine minerals industry performed relatively well in 2011 in terms of production values, with an increase of 9% as compared with the 2010 production values. Clearly, nickel is the star of the show with its 82% increase. We make no mistake that the figure on gold with its minus 10% is fiction. This is attributed to the black market and smuggling after the central bank started collecting excise tax and withholding tax from small-scale miners and traders in the last quarter of 2011. The non-metallic minerals, however, have been very consistent in posting annual increases. It is important to note that the production values of these commodities are directly in proportion to the behavior of the construction industry of the country. With increased activity in the nickel sector and new nickel mines, the Philippines is now second in a tie with Indonesia in global nickel ore production. This is based on the recent report of the United States Geological Survey. The country ranked fourth in 2009 and third in 2010 in nickel mine production. But the country is no longer in the top 10 gold producers of the world, nor in the top 10 copper gold producers in the world. Investment was also a different story. Foreign and domestic investments in mining dropped to $618.5 million last year from $956 million in 2010. This level of investment in 2011 was 57% short of the projected target of $1.4 billion for that year. And so, if we refer to the major economic indicators, we will find that the industry's contribution to the gross domestic product has remained almost the same, from 0.9% in 2007. It is almost in the same level in 2011 at 1% contribution to GDP. The figures for export share and employment contribution are not as bad, but they also have a lot of room for improvement. Where are we now in permitting? On the permitting front, the DENR is still maintaining the moratorium on the acceptance and approval of mining applications except for sand and gravel, mineral processing permits, and renewal of exploration permits. We are still in the moratorium in the issuance of environmental compliance certificates or ECCs, except ECCs for sand and gravel permits. And very recently, the DENR is also in the moratorium mode in the issuance of tree cutting permits. The challenges. To this presentation, there is just one challenge that the minerals industry is facing. Everything boils down to the anti-mining sentiments. It is the anti-mining sentiment that is bringing us down. The anti-mining sentiments in the country are being nourished by at least 6 formidable sources. The lack of information, because it appears like we are not really informing. Propaganda by advocacy groups, politics, the lack of benefits from mining as perceived by many, current violations and malpractices by some mining groups, and the legacy mines or the abandoned mines. We have about 22 abandoned mines in the country where the government is now spending with people's money so that these abandoned mines can be rehabilitated and stop posing a threat to the environment and to the people. The anti-mining sentiment is hurting the Philippine minerals industry. For instance, we are seeing resolutions and ordinances against mining being issued by an increasing number of local government units. As we speak, we now have 14 provinces in the list out of 80 provinces who have issued ordinances and resolutions against mining. So you have Leyte, Romblon, two Zamboangas, Marinduque, Bukidnon, down the line up to Negros Occidental. And that list is increasing. And this is worse. More and more local government units are going to Congress seeking for a more permanent way of banning mining. We now have 6 provinces and 2 cities asking for a law to ban mining in their respective territories. So you have Catanduanes, Sorsogon, Romblon, and 3 other provinces plus Cagayan de Oro and Davao City. And the list is also getting longer. We should also note that anti-mining sentiments translate into more and more regulations by government. The list of requirements is getting longer, reflecting the reaction of government every time there is a complaint against mining. And more complaints are coming out. We are more particularly concerned with the filing of petitions for writ of kalikasan and Temporary Environmental Protection Order or TEPO. 3 petitions have been filed so far, with the last one just recently filed by a group of legislators led by Senator Pimentel. So you have the first petition for writ of kalikasan against the Surigao mines, led by Taganito. Then we have the petition for writ of kalikasan filed against all mining operations in the Zamboanga Peninsula. And then the most recent one is the petition for writ of kalikasan filed against an FTEA granted by the Philippine government to a company named Altamina Exploration and Resources Incorporated. Plus a TEPO issued by a regional trial court in Surigao del Sur against a nickel mine named Mark Ventures. So what lies ahead for the industry? The mining policy will be crucial because it is supposed to address all the issues and concerns on mining and ensure that the development and use of the country's mineral resources are taken under a regime of responsible mining. The various consultations held by the Mining Study Group point to at least 6 general policy concerns. 6 general policy concerns. The first one is the proper valuation and protection of the ecology and biodiversity, environmental. Second is institutionalizing responsible mining for both large and small, with special attention to environmental and ecosystem impact and the rights of the indigenous peoples and host communities. The third general mining policy concern is ensuring optimal and equitable benefits from mining for local and national economic and social growth. The fourth general mining policy concern is providing for a good business environment for investors. The fifth one is strengthening institutional and governance capacities to ensure proper regulation and maximum benefits. And the last but not least general mining policy concern is considering climate change and disaster risk reduction as major concerns every time there is a need to decide whether or not to pursue a mining project. So there are policy focus areas areas where government is very closely evaluating, trying to find the answers to the issues leading to a very responsive mining policy. One focus area is the no-go zones. No-go zones means areas close to mining. And in looking into these focus areas, the concerns are about addressing the increasing concerns on protecting prime agricultural lands as a matter of food security. Everyone knows that food security is a banner program of this administration. Protection and promotion of ecotourism sites, which are major contributors to growth, as this administration recognizes, and ensure that critical and sensitive ecosystems shall not be adversely affected by mining. The second focus area is Palawan, the province of Palawan. And the concern is about Palawan being the country's last frontier. And we will have to follow a bill filed by Senator Ligarda declaring Palawan as the ecotourism capital of the country. This bill is now in the Senate with counterpart bill in the House of Representatives. And then coming out with a clear stand on mining in Palawan. The third policy focus area is the review performance of mining operations, which is to address the issue of ensuring compliance with the law and to rationalize mineral development and utilization in line with the principle of sustainable development. The focus area number 4 is auctioning of areas with known reserves, so that the consideration is government will be able to collect additional share through negotiation, and at the same time be able to weed out speculators and provide for a level playing field. We are not talking here of pending mining applications. We are just speaking here of areas with known or verified mineral reserves. The fifth policy focus area is creating an interagency council on mining, which would facilitate dialogue and coordination among the increasing number of stakeholders in the mining industry, and then be able to review mining and related laws, guidelines, and agreements. Focus area number 6, study of equitable benefit sharing schemes. The discussion or concern is looking into terms for equitable benefit sharing among the government, local government units concerned, and local communities, as well as existing taxes and fees and incentives. Number 7, imposition of higher regulatory fees and charges. The concern is the possible adoption of a fair and reasonable increase of fees on mine waste and tailings, on occupation, I'm referring to occupation fees, and processing fees after due consultation with stakeholders concerned. Number 8, the disposition of abandoned ores and mine waste and or mill tailings as assets of the state as a source of additional government revenue. Number 9, development of a downstream industry for the mineral sector. And the immediate concern is to formulate a national program for the development of value-adding activities for metallic ores. Number 10, mineral reservations. The discussion is to establish more mineral reservations for potential strategic minerals and support the development of strategic industries. The establishment of mineral reservations must be forward-looking and must respect existing rights. Eleven, government capacity enhancement. The concern is to strengthen capability of government agencies concerned in carrying out their mandates and functions. And this would involve not only the MGB, but also other agencies of government who, in one way or the other, are involved in the regulation of mineral resources of the country. Creating a task force against illegal mining. The concern is to institutionalize a stronger force of government to counter the growing illegal mining operation. A stronger force would mean involving not only the DNR, but also other departments concerned like the DILG, the DND, and the Philippine National Police. Number 13, policy focus. Streamlining and rationalizing small-scale mining operations. The direction is toward strictly implementing just one law on small-scale mining. That's RA 7076, featuring Minahang Bayan, totally banning the use of mercury in small-scale mining areas, operationalize all provincial mining regulatory boards and city mining regulatory boards, and provide training and capacity building to the small-scale miners. Number 14, demilitarization of mining areas. To strictly disallow unreasonable deployment of military and police personnel in mining areas. This reflects the perception that mining projects are militarized areas. Number 15, focus area, integration and streamlining of procedures and processes, featuring the creation of a one-stop shop for processing of mining applications that would include other government agencies like the NCIP, the DTI, among other government agencies that may be concerned. Establishing a central database system for the minerals industry to include data from wealth accounting and total economic valuation. And coming out with a unified map, one map that will contain all the data and elements necessary for mining projects. Number 16, pursuing enrollment in the EITI. In fact, even minus the mining policy, the DNR is now involved in a project with UNDP so that this initiative can be done even without the mining policy. Number 17, focus area, providing for clear and responsive environmental standards to address and effectively respond to environmental incidents related to mining. And the last but not least, focus area, providing for programmatic AIA. A programmatic EIA, as compared to the existing EIA, would apply to a wider area rather than to a project. So that if one would want to open a mining project in, say, a barangay in Claver, Surigao del Norte, the programmatic EIA will have to cover the entire mineralized region of Surigao del Norte. So that's how a programmatic EIA would come out. So what do we expect? It has been about 1.5 years since it was announced that a mining study group was formed to craft a mining policy. There would always be two sides to a coin. The non-believers would always paint a grim scenario, but many would just have to hope for the best. In the immediate term, we see that the issuance of the mining policy will cause the lifting of the moratorium, and the DNR would be able to resume issuing mining contracts and permits, ECCs, and tree cutting permits. It will allow the DNR to start resolving the pending motions for reconsideration and appeals and reinstate those that have been denied for reasons that are beyond the control of mining applicants, and address the problems that hamper the growth of responsible mining. One very important thing will be certain: the issuance of the mining policy will publicly make known the support of the administration for responsible mining in the country. Maraming salamat.
Okay, questions? Yes, I see a hand here.
Johan Raadsma, president of the PMEA. Director Jasareno, this will be a friendly question. But sometimes I wonder if I actually made the right decision to go into mining, especially after I saw the sell end reported of your boss, the DNR Secretary Pahe. 27 million pesos net worth after having worked in government all his life. I knew I made the wrong decision. But my heart is with mining. The question is that the puzzling thing is exploration is a little hole in the ground without being a mine. The environmental impact is minimal, and it really gives everybody a lot of information of how many resources we really should be arguing about. Now, for 2 years, there have been no valid exploration permits signed. And I'm not talking about the ones, the expats, that are subject to MR or dormant. There are a lot of members here who would like to poke some holes in the ground with consent of the landowners, spend money, and they're not mining, they're exploring. So to all those that don't have an exploration permit, I strongly suggest that you apply for a sand and gravel permit and drill 600-meter holes. But what's your view on the lack of exploration permits being granted?
It looks like many of them think that when we explore, we mine, or any exploration project, all exploration project for that matter would ripen to mining projects. For instance, let me take the case of Palawan. In one of the draft mining policy involving Palawan, the provision is the proposed provision is to allow an MPC holder to continue doing exploration in Palawan, but he will not be issued with a mining permit. So we have been myself personally, I myself have been doing extra effort to explain the difference between exploration and the other stages of mining. I have promised you, or I have informed you during the last PMEA meeting, that we will be recommending to the Office of the President the lifting of moratorium for the issuance of, for the approval of exploration permits. We are progressing. It's just that government really moves slowly, but we're getting there. So if with or without the mining policy, I'm optimistic that we will start moving in terms of exploration permits issuance.
Aaron Hawley, Roxex Limited, Director.
Could you speak?
Aaron Hawley, Roxex Limited, Director.
Thank you.
At the beginning of your speech, you basically said that DNR was the most active employer, yet throughout your, I suppose, mandate, you didn't actually outline what you're doing on the ground to educate the locals about mining, exploration, and the benefits to the community. Can you please outline to us what you're actually doing?
One of the most important programs of the MGB, not the DNR, the MGB, the Mines and Geoscience Bureau, is to undertake IEC campaigns, information, education, and communication campaign. That major program is being undertaken every year. In recent times, the subject of our IEC campaigns are the local government units. We have formed ICE Army, ICE, Information, Communication, and Education Army. We are preparing a complan, a communication plan, so that our campaign would be guided, so that our objectives will be attained. We are doing this. And we are partnering with the local governments, private parties, so that this campaign can be undertaken and won on the ground. But doing a successful IEC campaign is one thing. Convincing people that we are doing the right thing is another thing. For as long as we see violations, for as long as we see groups within our ranks not really doing what we are supposed to do under the regime of responsible mining, we will never overcome. It will always be an uphill climb to inform, properly inform, and convince people that we are not the bad guys. Year in, year out, sorry? Which provinces? All provinces. We have 15 regions all over the country, covering all provinces except the ARM.
And these campaigns, how long do they last for?
How long does the campaign last?
There is a dedicated IEC unit in every region, dedicated IEC unit. And this unit does nothing but to do the campaign, year in, year out.
Good afternoon. I'm Franz Lim from Dovetail Ventures Asia. I'd like to ask our director a question. You mentioned a while ago that the MGB is the part of the policy on mining is to demilitarize the mining sites. Am I correct? To reduce military and police presence. But on the other hand, I would like to ask you a question regarding how, if ever, the MGB will ensure the security of the mining sites and the safety of persons working in the mining companies. Thank you.
While I did the presentation, it doesn't follow that. It doesn't follow that my presentation is mine. The presentation is. It doesn't follow that that I concur with all the presentation that I made. I just inform you. What I did was to inform you what is being done at the moment. In fact, by doing so, we are being given the opportunity to act and make known our position, so that if ever there are proposed policies that are not really that will not really go well, then we have the chance to we have our chance to make our position. So on that particular aspect on demilitarization, I think the impression is that outfits like ISCAA, sorry TBI, there is an impression that outfits like ISCAA are harming people. They're harming people. So if this is not true, then we have to do something to rectify that impression.
Director Gavin Collery from Infill Resources. Just the one question. You mentioned in your presentation that 14 out of 80 provinces have issued ordinances of various types in respect to mining and the curtailing of. How do you see that being addressed inside the mining policy to protect the sovereignty of national law?
If I would be very optimistic about that interagency council to be created, then that council is supposed to address issues with local government units. As you would find, that council would include not only departments like DTI, Department of Finance, but also the local government units, the League of Provinces, the League of Municipalities, and the League of Barangays would be members of that council, plus NGOs. And therefore, you would have a council where all the stakeholders would be there discussing only one subject, mining. It has not happened before. We have the MDC before, that's the Minerals Development Council, but the membership is not that wide. So the plus side is having a forum involving all stakeholders able to talk about mining.
One last question, please.
Hi, JJ Atayde of Lumar Supply. Good afternoon. It seems like we are pointing to the policy that the current administration needs to implement. We're 2 years into the administration and he has 4 years to go. As the solution to the, this uneasiness of the mining industry, what happens if the next president doesn't accept that policy? What happens to the investments? Don't we have the responsibility to ensure a long-term solution to the mining industry rather than just rely on a policy to be made by an administration? How do you view this scenario?
I'm afraid everyone knows the answer. Policies are usually coterminous with those who are in power. But it's important to note that we have the blueprint of every administration has a blueprint on policy. And so we have the PDP. This is the Philippine Development Plan, which is supposed to cover the period from 2010 to 2016. That's the longest policy that the Philippine government has, a 6-year policy. So all the policy directions are contained in that PDP. I would suggest that for the decision makers, please do get a copy of that PDP. In there you will find the policy direction of government with respect to mining. And definitely, responsible mining is in one chapter of that PDP. The mining policy that we are crafting is intended to address the nitty-gritty part of it. And we are supposed to be able to go on. The problem is the DNR has started imposing the moratorium. That's the problem. Without the moratorium, we could have move on. We can wait longer for the mining policy. Anyway, we would have the permits. But with the moratorium, we just can't move on. We need the mining policy so that this moratorium can be lifted.
Yes, Chris.
Chris Acosta, Filminera. If you were the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, would you follow the same track with regards to the mining policy that we're doing right now? Or what would be the changes that you would do?
I would not have imposed the moratorium.
That was the shortest and most powerful answer to any question today yet, sir. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, before you go, sir, may I thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be here. I know that you had to cancel a speaking engagement in Davao, which is taking place today. And, of course, you have sent your assistant director to grace that meeting instead. So we really appreciate that you've taken the time out to speak to our audience today and to be frank as you can be given the circumstances that we face today in the mining industry. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me and give our speaker, Director Jasareno, a warm applause. And we are presenting to you a wonderful frame to thank you for being with us today. Would you like to move a little over there so that we can...